It's a sport that's really not about a perfect swing. It's not about where your right elbow is. It's not where your weight is. It's really about how to get the ball in the hole. The game of golf, as far as playing golf, scoring, things like that. That's so important. And I don't know anyone in America, PGA teacher in America, that really teaches people how to play golf, how to get it in the hole. And that's one of my goals. You know, the 6-week session that we had, one of my goals was to give you as much education and as much insight as I could give you over 6 weeks. A communication part of it. And again, like you say, golf is so many chapters, but people that tend to take lessons and want to get help, they tend to go to the long game, how they're swinging, how they feel about their shots, and then they sort of let things go, okay? But one of my goals, again, during the 6 weeks was to give you as much information as I could to make you a better player. There's so many things involved in golf. Rules, taking a drop from a cart path, fried egg in a bunker, a bad lie, what club to use, how do you handle a side hill lie, how much does wind mean to you in golf, what about the grain in the greens, you know, where do you miss a shot, where do you want to miss, below the hole, above the hole. So again, golf is so more widespread than what we give credit for, and yet I've never found anybody that really teaches you how to. So one of my goals, again, hopefully this 6-week session was about that. To making golf grow is not the love of the game, is not the cost, and is not the time. As much as people use all those three as 1, 2, 3, the real difference to me, I think, is the fact that people feel uncomfortable in what decisions to make and what to do. Who do you tip? Where do you play? What clubs you use? Who you invite to play with you? How do you, when you wave someone through? All those things, people feel very insecure about themselves and what procedures to take in a game of golf. And that's what I feel the biggest difference is, because I have people say all the time, I'd love to get started in golf, but I don't know where to start. Where do I start? Where do I buy clubs? What do I do? And that's what happens. And I think the one thing I would say that in golf is I'd like to get through that boundary. I do it every time. When I used to be at Overbrook Golf Club, I used to do that all the time. I would tell, I had probably had at least 8 to 10 women every year that wanted to start golf. And they had no idea where to start. They didn't know. So they came to a clinic, and this is what I did. And I have a brochure that's about 10 pages thick that basically says, let's get started to the game of golf. It gives you verbiage, it gives you etiquette, it gives you a scorecard, it gives you topics, it gives you pace of play, and all those things. And that's one thing I think the biggest hurdle that we all go through is that with the game of golf. So again, I mean, again, this clinic is the last clinic, and I opened it up last time. I mean, the last last 3 sessions I've had on Tuesday night, Thursday night, and yesterday. I open up the last, the first 10 minutes with questions, because I would say to you, there's always a tremendous amount of questions you might have in the game of golf, from equipment to where to stand to what to do to anything. There's all kinds of questions you could ask. And so I would ask you now to open up, because again, we're going to have a lot of time today to teach. How are you?
Good.
A lot of time to teach today, to give you some insights and all. But I would ask you, if you have any questions, please, take the time now to ask the questions. Again, from rules to equipment to etiquette to, how do you meet people to anything. Regular hazard.
Yeah.
Great question. What's the difference between a regular water hazard and a lateral water hazard? Okay, a regular water hazard is defined, number one, by yellow stakes. Yellow stakes are lines. A lateral water hazard is defined by red stakes. That's number one. That's the difference, okay? Now, the difference is lateral is usually used where you're playing a golf hole that has a hazard on sides. For example, you're playing a golf hole down the middle, and there's a creek on the left, all the way down the left side of the golf course. Well, if you hook your golf shot into a creek on the left side, okay, lateral means, let's say the creek's only 8 feet wide, you can go to either side to hit the shot to the green. If it's a regular water hazard, you don't have a choice. You have to keep that spot between yourself and the hole, okay, or 2 club lengths away from where it last crossed the hazard, or go back to where you originally hit it from. But in a lateral, you can go to either side, which is very valuable, because again, you play a certain hole for, an example would be you're playing a par 5 sort of with an island green. and you just shot on the green and it rolls off the edge and goes down the bank into the hazard. Well, if it's lateral, you could drop it right on the bank, no closer to the hole. If it's regular, you got to go all the way back to where you hit it from because you hit it over the water. So basically, it gives you lateral red, gives you an extra option in relationship to a drop.
And the penalty in each case?
It's always one shot. Always one shot. That's a very good question. Very good question. Okay. Any other questions? Like someone asked, Stu, what's the difference? What do you mean? I get confused when you say a strong grip or a weak grip. There's an example. That's a great question. What does that mean? You know, things like that. But anything that you want to ask, please ask, because this is the time. We got plenty of time today to go over things that you might have a concern with. Equipment. What's the most underrated golf club that people don't own in golf? I would tell you, it's a lob wedge. It's a 60-degree wedge. It's the most underrated golf club people do not own. And I would say if the next 100 people that come to our driving range here at MGOLF, I would say probably 97 will not own a lob wedge. Okay? And yet, 20 years ago, what they always said was, oh, you need to be a good player to use a lob wedge. I totally disagree. The two areas that I would say are underrated in golf today is a lob wedge in your bag and the fact that people say, well, I can't hit a driver. To me, the equipment made today, everyone should use a driver. Every single person. When a person comes to me and says, Stu, I don't even hit a driver, I'm not very good at it, I love it. I just start smiling. They say, why are you smiling at me? I said, because I know I'm going to help you. It's the easiest help in the world. Because first thing, if they don't have a driver, doesn't fit them, I have one as a demo right here, and I'll let you use. And all of a sudden, people use it. It's like, it's amazing. We had a girl in our Tuesday class. I'm not sure what class she was in. But the longest drive she ever hit was about 105 yards with her driver. So, and she had a pretty good swing, very athletic, probably 50, 55 years old. I gave her our demo, 13-degree driver, ladies. She had 155 yards 5 times in a row. She almost lost her mind. But again, that just tells you about equipment today. What can fit you, what doesn't fit you. And again, but these are all things I'm talking about today are things to improve your game of golf, okay? Any other questions at all? Yes? I ask about the hybrids. The hybrids is a new golf club out today. You probably know what they're called. They're hybrid. They're hybrids, and they're basically I would say the last 2.5 years, they have replaced the long irons. Okay, I'm going to get to your answer, but I'm trying to give you an insight to it. The hybrids are, again, a club that's replacing the 2 irons, the 3 irons, and the 4 irons. In fact, to be honest with you, I'm a master staffer at Callaway Golf, and when I order my clubs, I used to use a 1 iron or a 2 iron. They don't even make them anymore. The set of clubs I use as a professional that plays a lot of tournament national golf doesn't even have a 1 or 2 iron. So what did they do in the last 2 to 3 years? They replaced them with hybrids. Now, the one biggest problem I feel with hybrids, is the fact that when you look down, your mind goes towards a wood. That's what your thought is. You look down and you have that, what I call the wood mentality. Okay, first 2 hybrids I ever hit in my life, and I usually can hit any club. I cold top both of them. You know why? Because the length of a hybrid is not the length of a fairway wood. Although your brain goes towards a fairway wood because it looks that way, but you can't stand that far away. You have to stand like a 6 iron, in my opinion, like a 6 iron length away. And that's the difference, and that's, I think, answers your question. I have a feeling you're setting up almost like a driver, which is farther away, ball's too far forward. I always like to play the ball a little more like a 6 iron in your ball position and 6 iron distance from the ball, even though it looks in your mind like a wood, okay?
More like a center.
Yeah, more towards the center, not exactly center, but center would be our sand wedges or wedges. You know, left heel, I always say the rule of thumb, left heel is the driver, middle of the stance is your wedges, and then everything else filters in between. But where does the hybrid filter? I don't think it filters towards the fairway wood. It filters more towards the 6 iron, in my opinion, okay? That was a good question, though.